Dean, for holding the hearing, and thank you to our witnesses for taking time to be with us today. I want to start by following up on the line of questioning that Chair Huizenga started regarding the conflict of interest that is apparent in the service of proxy advisors. Right now, proxy advisor firms can recommend approval of ESG initiatives through the process and then return when the measure is passed to offer consulting services on its implementation. Mr. Crane, one of the most important points of this conflict of interest is the proxy firm's complete detachment from the success of the company or the impact of the proposal on the company's revenue and its operation. Even if ISS and Glass Lewis keep these issues separate, the lack of transparency on how they make vote recommendations, along with the lack of fiduciary duties owed to the investor, makes me think that they use their influence to push their products and services at the expense of the investor. Is that an accurate assumption?
I think it is, Congressman. They clearly have a financial stake really on both ends. They provide consulting services to help companies avoid negative recommendations from their advisory firm. And then if the proposal passes, as you just indicated, they're going to help you implement it. So there's a clear financial stake there and a significant lack of transparency given the SEC's unwillingness to enforce the 2020 rule that would have provided transparency into how they make these decisions and how they operate and what's really at play.
And my history tells me to follow the money, and so I think anyone who defends such a regime, I have to wonder, are they on the take along with these proxy advisory firms? In that same vein, there have been concerns raised about the concept of robo-voting, where asset managers automatically follow the recommendations that they receive from proxy advisors. A study of 175 asset managers by the American Council of Capital Formation found that the firms follow ISS's recommendations 95% of the time. For half of the entities, it's 99% of the time. Mr. Crane, how widely practiced is robo-voting?
So we know that robo-voting is a popular service that the firms offer. Former SEC Commissioner Roisman used to call this set it and forget it. The asset manager preemptively decides they're going to agree with whatever ISS recommends. ISS pre-populates the ballot and actually sends it. Then the asset manager doesn't even have to go in and press the button. So there is a real concern around, are folks who are utilizing these robo-voting services actually conducting the requisite analysis before those votes are cast?
Do you have concerns about this practice potentially breaching the fiduciary responsibilities of asset managers?
I absolutely do, and it's interesting. The SEC has been, prior to this SEC, aware of that exact risk. The same day that the Clayton SEC finalized the 2020 proxy firm rule, they put out guidance for asset managers, not for proxy firms, but for asset managers that said the SEC has just finalized this rule that put all this new information out into the market, conflicts disclosures, anti-fraud standards, et cetera. Asset managers really ought to go and look at that information before casting a vote rather than blindly robo-voting their shares. Unfortunately, this SEC has rescinded that guidance, but I think that type of policy is really important with respect to our asset managers living up to their fiduciary duty.
And Mr. Crane, with a 95% success rate on robo-voting, ISS and Glass Lewis are all but guaranteeing a follow-up meeting with their companies on how to implement the initiatives they recommended approving. What can Congress do to provide transparency in this process and root out this conflict of interest in our capital markets?
So the first step here is, I think, to clarify that the SEC does have authority. As I said in my opening statement, it's actually quite clear under the Exchange Act, but given that the SEC is unwilling to defend that authority in court, having Congress step in and say, yes, proxy voting advice is a solicitation and therefore the SEC can act, can regulate, is, I think, critically important. Additionally, Congress can step in and enact additional reforms that build on what the SEC has done, whether that's transparency around conflicts of interest, whether that's limits on the types of consulting services that these firms can provide. There's plenty of work that still needs to be done to provide more accountability to the industry.
I see my time is winding down, so thank you for your insights, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. With that, the chair recognizes Ms. Tlaib from